Hi, and welcome to our Google Hangout this afternoon for you people on the East Coast. Welcome. We are doing part 2 of a conversation we started last month, which was Rockstar Assistants, Secrets of the First 90 Days. So we're going to be going into part 2 today. And today we're really going to take a look at, more tips about how to go from, 30 days to 90 days and then on, and how to really make the best possible start to a new relationship, new working relationship with a new assistant. Now, this also might be for somebody who has an existing assistant or staff member, and you just need to rejuvenate that relationship, maybe reset. You've been together for a long time. You need to go, okay, we need to go a different direction, or you want to pump that up. So those are some of the things that we're going to talk about today. And I'm Jolene McDonough, and I have System Success. And I help entrepreneurs and business owners and real estate agents and top producers grow their back office. And sometimes that includes hiring and coaching their assistants. My guest today is Kathleen Metcalf of Inspired for Results, which is also, she also has Bullseye Hiring. She's a boutique hiring firm for top producers and agents in the real estate business as well. So we have a lot of fun together. So welcome, Kathleen.
Thank you for having me. Great to be here.
Sure. And Scott Solari from Viral Marketing. He is our moderator. He's the one that asks the burning questions. He's the guy that you want to type notes to and say, will you ask them this? So Scott, thank you so much for being our moderator and asking those tough questions sometimes, or having us really describe what we do and what we're passionate about. So thank you for being with us.
You're welcome. I love being here, and I love speaking to both of you. So we're going to get some really good content out today, so I'm excited.
Sure. So where should we go first? First 90 days? Or?
Yeah, well, let's recap kind of a little bit about what we talked about last time and where this assistant or person that you've hired should be at this point. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay. Well, after 30 days, and Kathleen can chime in just a second about that too, but after 30 days, you should really have the basics, the software basics, the kind of the structure going, and it's starting to feel like a system, and things are moving well. The communication is happening. There's questions. They're asking questions, things like that. One of the things that I noticed in the first 30 days is this is where personality styles really show up. And I know I harp on this, but it has been so beneficial for me in my business that I want to share that. Real estate entrepreneurs or real estate agents have a different personality style than most assistants, back office people, and so they process information differently. So what happens is, so the boss may think that they're not coming along fast enough, but what they have to understand is that they're processing. So even for me, I'm a back office person behind the scenes, and so I process things, but once I get it, I get it. But I have to go through the motion. I have to ask a lot of questions. I have to know that I can do certain things, which is very different than an entrepreneur generally who will throw it against the wall and see if it sticks, or try things. Assistants and staff people, back office people, just really don't try things, and that unless they have the best opportunity to win, they're going to be afraid to make mistakes that first 30 days. So yes, they may be further along than what you think, but that's why having those weekly meetings and setting up that structure of communication at the very beginning so that you know where they're at. Have good questions that will draw out answers or draw out where they are. So that's where I see people at the first 30 days, is that relationship starting to meld, that they're getting to know your personality style, you get to know theirs, and that's when all the magic starts to happen, is when it really starts rolling. Kathleen, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think in the first 30 days, assistants learn the tasks individually, and sometimes they don't make sense about what order they're going to go in. One of the analogies I like to have it be to explain it is when a new assistant comes into a real estate office where the transactions are already happening, it's like someone asked them to sit down and play cards, and they get handed someone else's hand of cards and they don't know, are we playing poker, we're playing rummy, or how many points is an ace? You know, like they don't really know how to play your hand. So they learn the pieces of the transactions and the tasks along the way. But in the first 30 days, often they don't make any sense because they came in the middle of the game. By the end of 30 days, into 6 weeks, 7, 8 weeks, now the flow begins to make sense. Now there can be a little more independent, but as Jolene said, the routine is really important because that's where the confidence gets built, that they know how to do this, they know how to do this, they know how to do this task, and then they can build on that confidence to take a little more risk where they're going to be asked to try something independently, and they're not as afraid to fail because they've gained confidence that they at least know these 12 things.
Got it. So they're at a point now where hopefully there's systems in place, they know all the tasks they need to be doing, and where they can maybe start to take a little bit more ownership in the second 30 days and really, I guess, I don't know, maybe explain that a little bit about where they should be starting or what they should be starting to do. What signs should you be starting to see that they're really starting to fit into this role?
Well, I think part of what you'll start to see is that they start to realize their mistakes. I mean, the first 30 days is about making mistakes and correcting them and saying, no, go this direction, not this direction. That's why the importance of having the communication set up, a system of communication, so you can redirect on the fly without making anybody wrong. But the next 30 days, it's really about them starting to take ownership of those mistakes and seeing them before they happen, and actually starting to see things that you need as an owner or as an agent before you really need it. And so that's what they're really great at, is seeing things before you need it. So by seeing some of those things, by actually putting some of the puzzle together and saying, oh, this is what that picture looks like. But it's really about taking ownership and moving forward and really taking pride in that. Really taking pride in what they're doing because they're in a support role. Yeah, so that is the support. Are they doing well with support? And that's when it's really important to have those conversations in your weekly meetings or your daily meetings or whatever they are, and having the conversations where if something's not done or not represented the way you want it to, I mean, they're not mind readers. They're just coming into this new. They don't know you really well. So they're coming in. You can redirect them by, potentially having an agenda for your meeting, and at the end saying, I liked how you did this CMA, or I like how you talked to this particular client on the phone, but, why don't we take it up a notch and do this as well? Or how you did it was okay, but this is how I work with my clients. Let's take it up a notch. So those are some of the things that can start happening in the second 30 days to actually take them into an enhanced mode rather than just getting the job done. But it's important to communicate that where you're not, what I see, where you're not, it doesn't feel like you're beating them up, because that's going to chip away at their confidence. So if they're always hearing all the bad stuff, you're going to chip away at their confidence, and this is a period of time to really start gaining momentum with their confidence. Kathleen, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I like that, gaining momentum with confidence. That's really accurate because I think, too, I highly recommend in the first 30 days that a new assistant and an agent communicate 3 times a day. Even if it's an email, a text, or a phone call, it doesn't have to be an in-person meeting. But if in the morning you help them set their priorities, you give them an opportunity to ask questions and give an update middle of the day, and then you get an update about what's happened at the end of the day, that pattern of communication then in the second 30 days allows them to more easily set their own priorities or make a recommendation, give you more updates, so that that's where the ownership can come in because they have learned how you think. One of the other suggestions that I make is let your assistant hear you, the agent, on the phone so that they can hear how you talk to people. How do you communicate with your clients? When are you firm? When are you demanding? When are you, give somebody some slack because they didn't know, so then they can be more like you in how they respond. So in the second 30 days and beyond, they can be more of your ambassador, and they are able to anticipate a little more, because anticipating the needs of your office or your boss is a reasonably sophisticated skill set. It takes the experience of knowing what happens in a day, a week, a task, in a transaction, and every real estate transaction is different. No matter how many systems you set up so that they're similar, there's always something about it that's different. So they can't be exposed to everything in 30 days, because everything didn't happen in 30 days. And most agents do think that it takes them so much longer. They think everything takes 10 minutes. And, you know, I laugh with the assistants to say, I know the agents think everything takes 10 minutes, but it doesn't.
That's not true.
And especially doesn't when you're learning how to do it. It takes 2 hours, and that's just what it takes. And so we just have to accept that. It won't always take 2 hours, but it does sometimes in the beginning. And so if that communication is open, then, you know, between the agent and the assistant, it's easier. But it definitely is something where when those patterns are created in the first 30 days, they're able to take more ownership, and they are able to move forward with greater momentum.
Okay, so let's get real here with who we're actually dealing with when we're talking about these business owners. And most entrepreneurs are very high D, and they don't know how to really manage people, right? So this is where you guys come in. So how important is it when you're working with the owner during the second 30 days that you're really training them too on how to lead and how to manage that person, so that they're allowing that person to take ownership of their role and be successful and figure out things on their own, and take that control themselves in that position where they're not just telling them what to do still on every little mistake or everything that they're doing differently or wrong, or whether it's wrong or not, they're maybe just doing it differently. Right. So what's that like for you guys to be working with those owners to lead them so that they can lead their staff, because we know how important that part is during that time, right?
Right.
That's like a whole. They write books all over that. I mean, there's so many books about this, and I mean, we could talk about this for the rest of the day. But here's the thing: there's a difference between managing and leadership, and there's also, you know, what I see and when I'm working with clients is, and I've gone through this, and it is not an easy process. It is a business and personal growth and development path that, you know, you choose to be on. And that's the thing. And that's what happens is when an agent says, or an entrepreneur says, hey, I'm going to hire somebody, what they don't realize is that they don't know what they don't know. And what they don't know is that they've raised their hand to leadership and saying, I am going to be a leader, and I'm going to do more than just manage. I'm going to take my business to the next level. Now, what that also incites is it's hard. It is not always easy to be the leader, to do your production, and to make sure everything's, and to be a business owner and run things. Mm-hmm. So there's definitely skills that need to be learned about enrolling your person, enrolling your assistant, managing them, redirection. It's not just about going out and prospecting anymore. It's about being a leader, holding up the flag and saying, this is who we are as my business. So, you know, each agent is different. They have their core values. They, you know, your assistant wants you to look good. That's one of the things that they are good at. They will stay ahead of you. They'll have your back and make you look good. And if you give them an opportunity and share where you're going with your business as a leader, and also what you want to accomplish, they can get behind you and do that. But again, leadership is one of those things. Nobody can give it to you. You have to take it. You have to take on leadership with your people. And what I see the hardest thing is when agents have now 2 or 3 assistants, it gets even more complex. So why not do the work and learn how to be a leader and a good manager of the tasks and the projects when you have one person, so that when you get to 3 and it gets a little more complex, you're better at it, and you can be a flying team, and you can pile the production on and things won't break. So those are my thoughts. How about you, Kathleen? That's a mouthful. Like, whoa.
Jolene and I have talked about this at length, and it's like on the menu there used to be do it all yourself, or hire someone and have them do it. but then you had to teach them how to do it. So now on the menu is also the management of the team, which means you're still responsible in terms of being a manager about helping them to set priorities and to instruct your staff about how you want things done or to the level of quality that you want something accomplished. It's not always necessarily about giving them every step along the way, because once you've set up the software system and the checklist, some of that is already determined for them. So that's where the micromanaging a la carte item can be removed from the menu. You don't really have to micromanage, but you do have to manage in that you have to help set priorities. And so then in terms of leadership, one of the things I've been talking to the teams I work with lately about, because we're coming up to January and planning, is do you have a 2015 business plan? Have you communicated that to your staff? Because it actually trickles down into workload that they can anticipate to know where is your business going, and then where was the business in 2014, so they can understand, you know, how you analyze the business. On job descriptions, it sometimes says to control expenses or to reduce expenses is on the assistant's job description. And I usually recommend that say manage expenses. Because what if next year you're going to invest more money in something and it's going to be more expenses than last year? That's not the assistant's fault. It's a business decision that was appropriate. So in terms of the distinction between management and leadership, there is that day-to-day management plus the vision of where we're going and where we've been. And you know, both Jolene and I support the concept that real estate agents spend the majority of their time prospecting, doing lead follow-up, going on appointments, and negotiating contracts. Those are the 4 top items that the income producer must be engaged in. However, when you have a staff, you have to be the manager and the leader in addition to being the producer, because otherwise it's sort of a circus, and it becomes an investment that you should protect. And to also protect against turnover, then it becomes about what are you investing into the quality working relationships, because it's not just about the numbers anymore. No. Now it is about the morale and the environment, the culture that you are creating in which these people want to keep working with you.
That's right.
That takes a little skill.
You know, it's funny when, I don't know if people ever see The Prophet. He talks about the importance on, I guess, on whatever channel it's on, CNBC or whatever, but he takes over businesses that are having a hard time. And one of the things that he preaches is people, systems, and products. And notice that the people are the first things, and then the systems. So if you have the right people in the right place, and then the systems in the right place, then the products are going to come along and it'll be supported. And the people are only as good as the systems. But all of that has to be in place, and it has to be going in the direction of what the owner wants it to do. And I think you're absolutely right. 2015 is coming up. Do your assistants, does your staff know where you want to go? And, you know, I had a situation where one of my clients, her assistant, she knew that she was not going to be able to keep up. She works part-time. And she knew she would not be able to do the job that the agent needed to have done without some help. And so she was just being straight up saying, look, either we need to get somebody else or, you know, have somebody else part-time. So, you know, engage your staff in your plans. I think that's what happens is the assistants and the staff don't know where you're going. So they can see what's going to be coming up in, let's say you're running a big marketing plan. You can talk to them about seasonality. You can talk about different things like that, where they're going to see the influx of business and the impact on what their workload is going to be. So use them. They also may have ideas on how you can be more efficient. You know, not just the assistants in the first 90 days, but your staff has amazing capabilities. They can help you have things be more efficient and manage the costs. They can manage your efficiencies and things like that. But again, it's knowing where they're going, which means the leader has to tell them.
Right. So I want to jump in real quick for For the people that are watching, there's a Q&A. There's little squares at the top right. Click on that and hit the Q&A app, and you can ask questions, and we'll get them answered for you, okay? So my next question is, this all goes back to, obviously, the owner needs to be communicating with their employees, right? So how do you train them? How do you tell them how they should be communicating? How often? How frequent? What type of system should they have in place for that type of communication to go over and help get the person through that second 30 days to where they're really off and running by the end of 60 days? They should be pretty much being able to do most of the work themselves. Is that not right?
Well, it really is a 90 to 120-day process. So it's not just 60 days, because then the next 60 days after that in the progression of learning is that they take real ownership and real pride in what they're doing. And that's when you start to see where it becomes their job. So, they're engaged in the process. So that's where we see the process. It's the going from 30 to 60 to 90 days to 120 days. But you'll see a lot of times the 90-day review, the 90-day evaluation. Having a 90-day evaluation is a good idea, but there should be no surprises when you get to a 90-day evaluation. What I've seen happen is time goes along and the assistant is trying to do what they're doing. They're trying to read the agent's mind or trying to read their boss's mind. They don't know if they're doing something or not, right or wrong. They're not having regular meetings. And so they just go and do stuff like they think it's supposed to be done. However, when things are happening, they could be getting hits on their confidence level, which if they're not engaged in their job, they're just going to go away. So, and that's when you lose people. That's when it doesn't work out and you end up replacing it. On the other side, the agent or the boss, if they're tolerating things that are not going well, the toleration and the avoidance of the conflict or the avoidance of having the tough conversation or avoidance of having the redirect conversation is only going to lead to turnover. Because if you can't do that, if you're going to tolerate stuff that it's just going to build up until it's going to break. And that's why I say, how do you do, midterm or, weekly redirects and weekly, meetings and acknowledgments so you don't get to a 90-day blow up and you blow them out. And they find out, oh, I didn't realize I wasn't doing a good job, or on the other hand, I didn't realize I was doing a good job. That happens too. And they're so resigned and so disengaged that it doesn't matter what you bring to tell them that they're doing, right or wrong, they're already disengaged. So along the road, it really is about communication. It's about effective communication. And, Kathleen has this great evaluation program, the 90-day evaluation program that she uses with her clients. And I'd like her to explain a little bit about that, too, because it is a great process, great questions, and it does take a little bit of courage. It takes work. It takes acknowledgement, and it takes some looking deeper than just the surface. So why don't you go ahead and share that with us, Kathleen?
Thank you. So I have a worksheet for employees and a worksheet for the supervisor or the agent. And in addition, there can also be, and it's in words. It's about things that you do well, things where you feel challenged or where things need correction. And it includes for the supervisor, what are you, the supervisor, doing that you need to change? What are you doing that is not effective? What are you doing that or not doing that you should be doing? And
they cannot skip that. They cannot skip that page.
I bet they love that page, huh? They love that page.
It's only a paragraph, thank goodness.
It's a hard page.
And there's also the opportunity to evaluate with a number, 1 through 5, 1 through 10, different tasks or skills that need to be done on the job. So it is a useful tool, and we sometimes do it during the first 30 days, where if I think that I, as the assistant, am a 9 at taking care of, anticipating my agent's needs, and the agent thinks I'm a 3, well, we also have a perception issue. And so then how are we defining those different terms and responsibilities so that we're in alignment? Because an evaluation really is an opportunity for praise, and it is looking for training needs.
Right.
Most of the time in a job, potentially even for years, it's about what are you doing well and you should repeat, where is there redirection, and where are there training needs. The only time someone really needs a reprimand is where there is an attitude issue and they already have competency. They already have the skills to do the job, but there is, for whatever reason, some sort of attitude problem. Something's happened, someone's feelings got hurt, there was a misunderstanding, or someone has an opinion that they don't want to do things the way you think they should be done. And then that's where praise can happen in public, and reprimands or redirection should always happen in private. When you correct someone in public, you have them sort of lose face, as would be said in certain cultures. That kind of embarrassment is sometimes irreparable.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so we always want to maintain the human dignity of everyone on the team. It's one thing to be upset that something happened. It's another thing and recognize that the machete that you swing with your words costs you an enormous amount of money. Turnover costs approximately 3 times the person's salary. An average real estate assistant costs $35,000 to $50,000 in terms of, that's the investment you make in their salary. So that's a $90,000 to $150,000 machete cut you just made. So I hope that was really worth it for you, because it's a terrible thing. I have a new quote from a client recently that said, "I don't think I would have my assistant if it wasn't for you," because in the first 90 days, it was really hard for him to praise. He just wanted to give her, "I don't like that, not like that, do it differently, that's not it," and that came really easily to him. The praise, he said, "I don't even know what to say to her to praise her.
Yeah.
Do I just say thank you or good job, or, I said, well, you need to let her know how this activity made a difference in your business, how it made a difference to the client, how it made a difference in the transaction, because that's how an employee knows what to repeat." So in the 90-day review, it also is sort of sobering to see that feedback in writing. To see that in black and white can also be the turning point for some people to say, "Oh, I didn't know that this really bothered you that much," or "I didn't know this made such a difference in the business." And then, boom, they turn on a dime and they change their behavior. But there's something sometimes about having it in black and white that is really helpful to people, as opposed to just words. Mm-hmm. One of the things Jolene and I talked about in preparing for this session today was that agents get reviewed all the time.
Right.
Agents get reviewed by their clients in prospecting calls when they get hang-ups or people say, "Yes, come talk to me," and they get a review in a listing presentation when someone says, "I don't really like you," or "I don't really want to work with you," or they say yes. And then they often write letters or give you feedback during or at the end of a transaction. So the agent gets feedback directly about their sales skills and their customer service. But assistants don't usually get that.
Right.
They don't have that opportunity except from their agent to say, "The way you answer the phone, I really like that. I think it's friendly. It makes a difference in how people feel welcome and that you have their full attention."
Right.
Okay, great.
And sometimes it's a matter of sharing. A lot of times what will happen is clients will share with agents, say, your assistant was really helpful, your staff has been really helpful. Passing that on to your staff is really important too. If you get a note that includes them, pass it on to them, share that with them. It's that appreciation. I'll tell you, it goes for miles, just that they know that they're on the right track. So if they're on the wrong path, you gently move them back onto the right path. So.
Yeah, that appreciation, because that's another facet of the review. Praise it can be very behavior specific, but there's also the appreciation factor. You know, one of the distinctions a new assistant told me recently is she felt really engaged and involved in helping the agent get this listing. But when he came back, it was my listing. It was his listing. It wasn't our listing. And so it also makes a difference to the team that you include them in the credit, that we got a new listing and we got a new buyer deal. And so on one hand, yes, the agent is often the negotiator that brings that together. But somebody helped put together the packet, and somebody helped send, you know, that communication. And that little bit of credit where they feel involved, where they see that your 50 deals or your 150 deals or your 20 deals a year, that they feel pride in that. Because when Jolene was talking about how that the assistants feel pride in what they do, I find that in the first 90 days, that's actually the hardest part, is that we helped them hire really competent people in their last job, and now they're new.
Yeah.
And they ask for help, and they don't know the answer, and they make mistakes, and it is brutal for them. They hate this part. They want to be the one that you go to for help. They don't want to keep asking their boss, how do you do this? And what does this mean? And why do we have to do it that way? And I forgot what you told me about this one screen. They hate that part. So it's a very delicate time that if there isn't that balance between praise and correction, they sometimes want to leave almost out of embarrassment, that they feel like a failure, that they couldn't do it, they couldn't get it fast enough, when that isn't the case. They really do have what it takes. We just need to make that investment in the first 90 days that says, I believe in you and I'm going to help you be successful, so that then we can stay together for 5 years or 10 years. And, you know, I know several assistants that have been with their agent for 12 years. It's a wonderful thing. But that takes, you know, quite a bit of collaboration.
Awesome.
So how's that, Scott?
That was a great. That was
You
great.
want to know how we really feel about it?
Yeah.
Well, hey, you know what I want to know is I want to know what you're finding on that page when you're, you know, doing your evaluation of the owners. And are you running the certain patterns that you seem to find every time? I'm interested to know that.
About what the agents say about what they want to do differently?
Yeah, about what what the agents are you evaluating, like how they're doing as training?
They're evaluating themselves for the most part.
Okay. So what do you find when they I'm interested to know what you find when they're writing that. I'm interested to know what they write about themselves and what you're finding, if there's a pattern there.
So you're not going to publish this in the Star magazine or anything?
No.
Why, do you want to take the test? Do you want the evaluation, Scott?
I'm interested. Well, I kind of know the answer already, but I'm interested to know a little bit.
Yeah, so most of the time they do not think they're good communicators. Most of the time they are uncomfortable with confrontation, and they do not know how to give feedback.
That's really interesting, considering they're like cold calling all day.
Right.
But that's in an event. I mean, they got really good at it. It's practice. It all takes practice. Everything takes practice. You don't get good at anything unless you're practicing.
So what you're telling me, Jolene, is that these business owners aren't experts at hiring people, and maybe they need help doing it. Right?
Kathleen and I wouldn't have jobs. That's what drew us forth in what we do, and part of our business is, they do need help. And here's the thing. They may need help, but here's the thing. They're better off in front of buyers, sellers, working on transactions, prospecting. That's a better bang for their buck for them to be doing that. They're not experts in hiring. We can't go manage or lead their assistants, but we can be matchmakers and give them the best possible person for their business. And we go out and do that while they continue to create more business. So we're good at that. Like, you won't find me cold calling. I'm not good at it. I'm not good at sales. But, they are. So let us do what we do best and work in the back office, do the hiring, do the operations, things like that, and let them go out and do what they do best. and that's kind of what we do. So
Yeah.
it's just that we're kind of behind the curtain, so people don't see us all the time.
Well, I was reading, and it's interesting. I was just reading a book called Who. I don't know if you guys have heard of that, but it's a whole process on how you find talent, and we're trying to do that in our own business because we,
You need
anyway,
to follow us.
that's another whole. I know that's another whole day that we can go over that. But they said in the book that the number one epidemic in this world today is hiring staff and hiring the wrong people and not being able to do it correctly, and that people just don't take the right approach, and they think that, oh, I need to hire someone, let's go hire someone, and that's like as much time they put into it, which is horrible, right?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It's a train wreck. It's a train wreck waiting to happen. And listen, after hiring, so when I left my company, I had 50 employees at the time. I went through, to get in the 20 years that I had the company, or 18 years I had the company, I hired and let go a lot of different people. And I finally figured out some of the processes so that I had the best possible chance. Because it's not just about having the owner be happy with that person. The staff has to be happy too, in all different positions, from a client coordinator to an escrow officer. It has to be a match. And, I made some really bad mistakes. I was like, what the heck was I thinking? So I get it. It is not fun. And I'll tell you, it's not fun having to let that person go. And it's also not fun when somebody quits because of you. It's ugly. You talk about taking a confidence hit. Even as a business owner, I took confidence hits there. So, that's what we bring. It's like the experience of, hey, listen, I know what it's like out there. And I know what it's like to hire the wrong person and the right person. And I want that best possible choice for you. So that's what part of what we do.
That's awesome. So let's dive into some specifics about where someone should be at the end of 60 and what you're looking for, and what are some signs of maybe things, if they're not the right fit by that end of 60 days, that you would notice as an owner and start to see as you're going through this process.
Well, one of the things that I would say is attitude. I think Kathleen brought it up, the attitude. The attitude of engagement. Are they engaged? Are they looking to get better? And a lot of times, there's a gut check. Is this going to work out? Is this a match? Is this not a match? Are things happening? Are mistakes happening? Are they just not catching on? Hopefully, through the interview process, you've done some testing. You've done kind of your homework on the person to find out if they have the skills. But there are times when stuff happens where they literally told you they could do something and they couldn't. Then you need to make a choice. Do you put in the training or not? But you have to go along and kind of check the engagement, attitude. Are they willing to make changes? Are you guys getting along? Can you literally see this person working for you 6 months to a year from now?
Yeah.
And having it grow. So if there's a point in time when, if it's not working and you're not in, there is a point in time, if you're doing all this stuff, if you're doing all the evaluations as you go forward, it's usually an amicable breakup. Like, this is not a match. This is not working, because the writing's on the wall. There are no surprises. There really shouldn't be any surprises.
So what's that communication, that meeting like, when you're getting to a point where it's kind of like, I call it like the come to Jesus meeting of either you got to do this or that. So what's that like?
Well, there's two things. One is there's what you say, and then what's it like. And I think what we say and what you go into, and maybe the structure of that, we could actually do that. That might be a good next Google Hangout.
Cool.
Is the handling difficult conversations. That with your staff, that might be a really great hangout. But what's it like? It's hard. It's hard, but you've got to take a stand for your business. As a business owner, you have to decide what's best for your business. And like I said earlier, you're either going to tolerate the inefficiencies and ineffectiveness and tolerate that, and you're just going to, that frustration level is just going to keep growing and growing, and it's just going to blow up. So why not handle it now. It's really taking a stand for your business calmly, and understanding it's not personal and making a change.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's not personal. It's not, these people are not, we're not good or bad people, but is it a fit or not? Is
Right.
it just, it's like dating. It's either a match or it's not a match.
And at work,
love
it's
it.
about performance. It's about the job description and the skills that are required, the results that are required, and then evaluating the results of the performance. So if you're using the job description as a guide for these are the requirements for satisfactory performance in this role that produces these results, which is then a part of how the team goals are accomplished, and you show them you're not meeting this. Is it that you don't know how? Or is it that you're unwilling? Or is it that you don't want to? Or is it that this is just too hard for you, but these are the results that we need? So if this isn't possible, then this isn't the right match.
Right.
And one of the things that I also talk to both sides of the equation about is being in a job where someone is not successful is soul crushing.
Oh, yes.
You are not doing anyone a favor by not letting them go in a job where they are not successful. They should go be successful. And if you can't help them to get there, or the business cannot afford the learning curve for that person, then it's better to generously part ways in a kind fashion than it is to drag that out and risk the results of the business and have the person feel bad about themselves and their performance.
Yeah.
I agree completely. I remember that was my go-to line every time I had to fire someone at my old job. I fired a lot of people.
Oh.
I hired and fired a lot of people. They used to call me the Axe Man.
Oh yeah, like I was a hatchet woman. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. It's not. Here's the thing: when that gets fun, we need to get out of the business.
Well, right.
Really, seriously, when that gets fun, that's why I say. So when you asked how is it when that happens, when it gets easy to have those conversations, then something's going on.
Yeah.
Something's wrong. So I mean, we're all human beings, and we want to respect our humanness in that. So okay.
Wow. Yeah. Well, and here's the thing is, like, I'm thinking about, like, I know right now I have a couple team members, and they're amazing, and I know that we're going to be expanding next year. And one of my biggest things, like, gut wrenching, like, I genuinely get concerned about hiring someone because I need to know that they're committed, and that if I'm going to put in the limited amount of time that I have in my day to help them and train them, that they're going to reciprocate that and be successful. And it's scary. It is, as an owner, as someone that, like, needs to, you know that you only have so much time to invest, and if it fails, it sets you back, and then you're starting over. And it's such a big thing to make sure that you have that right person when you do put them in that system, and that everything is laid out. And we've kind of talked about this.
Right.
That's a huge thing. That's a huge thing for me. And I know I'm gonna need both your help coming up here in the new year as I hire a couple people. But we'll talk more about that. You know.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Well, it's also, again, it's through leadership. It really is through leadership, and it's leadership through people. So that's what you get to do, Scott. Yeah, we'll talk. You're up to speed. Yeah, we'll talk.
Good. So, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead. No, go right ahead.
Okay, so going back, you talked about what, as far as if they're at 60 days and they're pushing and there's someone that looks like they're going to be a really good fit for this job, what are things that you're starting to see them do moving into the final 30 days? And then I think we'll leave it at that. But where should they be at? What are, like, defining things they should be at the end of 60 days?
So what I found with my staff is that they are coming to me with problem solving, or they're being resourceful. They're getting ahead of me. They're bringing issues to me with potential resolutions. They're getting to know me. They're getting to know what I like. And it's not just bringing me my coffee in the morning the way I like it. It's about kind of staying ahead of me, and maybe even like in correspondence, or it's like the little things. It's drafting the letter and saying, drafting a letter and saying, why don't you go ahead and just make changes to it? And you look at it and you realize that it's almost like you wrote it and you just make changes. It's taking initiative to do certain things. And possibly even looking at systems that are already in place and making recommendations of, I know we're doing it this way. Do you have a problem with me shifting this or maybe doing this? And it's asking permission to change those systems that have been in place or whatever. But it's really, it's when I talked about taking ownership of that job, that becomes their job. And they're like, you almost see it physically in their body that they took ownership of that job, and that's their job. And I have your back, and this is mine, and I am the marketing and listing coordinator, and I am your assistant. So there's a pride there. So anything to add, Kathleen? What do you think?
Yeah, I think one of the distinctions that you can measure around that is in the first 30 to 45 days, even potentially in the first 60 days. In those daily communication meetings, or several times a week, the agent is usually leading that meeting. The agent is usually the one saying, okay, here's 123 Primrose Lane, what's going on with this active listing? Here's 456 Cherry Avenue, this is pending, what's going on with this transaction? At about 60 to 90 days, the assistant can lead those meetings.
Right. Yep.
The assistant is the one that can say, okay, here are all the transactions, here's what's going on with this deal, here's what's happening with this buyer, I have these questions, and that is a shift in sort of power that can happen, that is an example that they have taken ownership. But you can also prepare the new assistant at day 2 that in 60 or 90 days, you're going to lead these meetings.
Right.
So you need to be, as the leader, as the manager, as the agent, you're the one exemplifying, this is what the communication looks like. This is the kind of interaction we need to have, so that you model for them what you want them to do to lead those meetings and to take charge in 60 to 90 days. But you have to show them what it looks like and then allow them, give them that responsibility, that accountability, that authority to lead the meeting, because it really is their job, that transaction management. So they should be able to then take on that leadership themselves.
So how important is it during that part to really start to detach as the owner and saying, when they come to you with little things you think they should know, that you go, you go ahead and do it, figure it out. I mean, I know that when I was with Frank after a certain part, it's like 2 years ago, with month 1, he threw 50 clients at me, and I've never done anything like this before. And I was asking lots of questions. At some point, he goes, call Infusionsoft, call John, figure it out, Google it, and that helped me. Instead of being there and just asking questions, I was like, all right, I need to take ownership of this, figure it out, know that I had the skill set to be successful.
So Scott, I was just going to bring up a safety tip. Just because you've gotten to 90 days and they've started to take ownership of this does not mean that it's all panacea and that everything's going to work out for the rest of your life. It's like a learning process. Yeah, you're going to go forward 2 steps, back a step, forward 2 steps, back a step. And yes, you can start to detach, but selectively detach. It's a constant, it becomes a partnership. That's what happens after the 90 days, is it becomes like a little partnership, back and forth, back and forth. I was in partnership. It wasn't always great. There was always adjustments to make. But the safety tip is really, you're not cooked. You're not all done in 90 days. It is an ongoing. We're human. These are relationships. We're all changing and growing. Our agents are going out to events. They're coming back with all these ideas, and they're expecting assistants to transition and implement stuff. Our assistants hate it when we go to events, because we come back going, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this, and they're like, wait, okay, pick one. I personally experienced it. So we're always growing. And so the safety tip is really understand you're always growing. You're not cooked. Nobody is cooked, because you're even changing. You are changing as a leader as well when you come in. So everybody is. So yes, you can selectively detach on certain things, but just know that may need to go back and revisit, and it's a growing relationship.
Well, I have a client that I use the expression that she teaches her assistant how to fish, as opposed to just handing her a fish. So there is a point in time where, yes, you have to give the new person the answer. Then I think the agent can answer a question with walking them through the thought process of how to find their own answer or how to make certain connections that they weren't making on their own. And then you are teaching the assistant about how to get to an answer and not that the agent is the only one with the answer. So yes, I do think at about 60 days, that's an appropriate time to start doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. All right. Well, I mean, is there anything else that you guys want to add to this Hangout, this process of things that we didn't touch on? I wanted to make sure I touch on all the questions for you.
Well, I think you covered it. I think we covered it. It's been really fun. We enjoyed it. Obviously, we love what we do. We didn't scare you.
No, I love it. So what can people expect from our third, Hangout on this subject from 60 to 90 days? And next month in the new year, we're going to be in 2015. So how exciting!
Well, okay, I think we pretty much covered 30, or really the first 90 days in part 1 and part 2.
Mm-hmm.
Where I'd like to go in 2015 is more, we'll come back to the assistants, but I also want to take on some of the operational pieces, which is how do you know if you're profitable? Everybody's doing their business plans for income and bringing in production and what it takes and everything else, but how do you know if you're really profitable? Bottom line, and are you profitable? What are your financial goals? What are the key indicators that you can use? What are some of the systems you can use to know whether you're profitable or not? And then that also comes back around to, as they're growing, what's in the budget for staffing? What's it going to cost? And what is it going to cost to, go through the 90 days? So that's what I would like to cover in the next couple of Hangouts is more operations, financials, production, and how that equates to what do you want to make? How do you know if you're profitable? Because I see too many agents who are making a ton of money on the top line. But on the bottom line, there's nothing.
Yeah.
Or they're in trouble. And I also see people who are killing it, both on the top line and the bottom line. So I want to see more people doing that.
That's a huge topic. I think being profitable is one of the biggest things that I see too. And we work with so many agents, and some of them are really, like you said, really profitable, and other ones aren't so profitable, and teams are too big, and they have the wrong staffing, and they don't have the right people, and not efficient. And so that's good.
Sometimes, Scott, it's about what they don't know, they don't know. And I've seen. I grew my business from $1.5 million in gross commissions coming in to almost $29 million in gross commissions coming in. I had to manage that and manage the profitability, and I've seen how agents can be profitable. And there's just little tweaks that you can do, things that you be aware of, the key indicators. How do you know? How do you know? It's not just about how much money I have in my checking account. Oh, good, I'm profitable.
Yeah.
That's not
nice.
So that's where we'll go next time.
All right. Well, any final words for the people viewing, and then we'll sign off.
Well, Kathleen, why don't you go ahead and go first, and then I'll wrap it up.
Well, I just encourage people to give feedback. I'll remind people about the Oreo cookie. That feedback is like an Oreo. The first cookie is praise. Praise the things that you want people to repeat that they do well. The creamy center is corrective direction, and so make sure that you correct behavior right away so people can get into a good habit. And then the other side of the cookie is to praise again and let people know that you have confidence in their ability and that they can perform to the standards that you've upheld. So feedback.
I love it. It's great. Well, first, there's just so much that can be done, and so team building, leadership. There's so many things that we see where agents can actually increase their production, increase their staff, and there's incredible opportunity out there. Number 2 is thank you, Kathleen, for being my guest for the last couple of Hangouts. I'm looking forward to more. And then, Scott, thank you in Viral Marketing, because without you guys, I couldn't put this together on my own. So thank you, and I just say if somebody wants help with video marketing, Scott and viral marketing is they're the people to help you with that. So thank you so much, Scott, and thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Kathleen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. Well, we're signing off, guys. Jolene, you're amazing. Kathleen, you're amazing. Thank you, ladies.
Thank
And
you.
we'll see everyone next time.
Okay.
Thank you, Scott.
Thanks. Bye.